If you want to learn my new Twitter outreach strategy, it's the #1 way to book appointments on your calendar. This month, we're on track to book around 300 appointments. If you don't want to be stuck in the sea of IG DMs that never get read, you want to watch this video all the way to the end where I'll give you the secret strategy of how we took ourselves from 20 to 30 meetings a month all the way up to around 200 to 300 a month, depending on the month, in around a 2 to 3 month time frame. Let's get right into it. All right, so today I'm going to be walking you through my entire Twitter masterclass, and you'll notice that I don't say X throughout this. It's not X, it's Twitter. It's just my opinion, but that's what I'm going to be walking you through today. Twitter is a great platform because there's just not nearly as much competition as there usually is on most platforms. Really like Twitter just because it has a lot more people in my audience. Look at first who your audience is, and I'm going to walk you through all that in this video. But for me, Twitter was the best place because it's the highest response rate. We did a little of a test. On Instagram, we sent about 700 DMs over a week's period. We got 1 reply. On Twitter, we sent out about 700 over a week's period, and we got a ton of replies. So if you want to learn how we do it, watch this video all the way to the end. So the first thing that you need to be doing is optimizing your profile. You probably hear 1,000 people tell you this, but that's because it's true. Optimized profiles are extremely important. It's like basically a landing page for you. It's the first step of your funnel. A lot of people skip this, think that their funnel starts at their landing page. It doesn't. It starts here on your Twitter. So it's very, very important that you have a very clean profile. You can see I have a pretty clean profile. Very, very important that you don't have a logo here. Nobody wants to talk to the logo. Like, you don't call the bank and say, "Hey, can I speak to the logo?" No, you want to speak to a person. And people want to speak to people. People want to connect with people, especially through the big that went around last year or the last couple years. It's been very, very hard for people to find other people to talk to, so they want to talk to people. So it's very, very important. Have a clear headshot. Like you can see here very clearly, I have a headshot. You can see me, you can see who I am and what I look like, and you can make assumptions about me and judge me. And that's what I want. If people look at that profile picture, they're probably thinking, man, that's a good person that I might want to work with. And in the background, you don't have to have something as nice as mine, but you should have something back here that encourages people to actually check out your page, talks a little about what you do. Just keep it simple. This is just one that I have that I use on my YouTube as well and on my different platforms, but make sure you have some sort of clean banner as well. So as we get into this more, we want to look at the bio, right? The bio is very, very important. I usually use an I help statement. Right now, it's not an I help statement. This is what my bio is right now, just complete transparency. But an I help statement is basically I help target market reach their desired outcome without pain and sacrifice, right? So that's how you fill in an I help statement. So if you can add that I help statement in here, people will be able to tell instantly what you do, what you offer, and what you deliver. The next thing that you need to do is put in a real name, not no goofy name. We ain't talking to goofy people. We want to talk to real people. So we want to have our name, and then in addition, put what you do, right? And this is very important. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in this video and in some of my other videos. You probably heard me talk about it as well. You want to stand out from the competition. You have to. So that's why I have Systems Manager. If you search up Systems Manager on Twitter, you'll see I'm the first person that's going to come up because as far as I'm aware, I made up Systems Manager. I'm the only Systems Manager there is. So you want to have something like that that is very, very specific to you. That's your unique method. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video as well. So very, very important. Get Twitter Blue. It just adds that little extra touch of professionalism and shows that you're a real person. And it will help you long term in actually booking more appointments because more people will see your messages and just respect you overall. So highly recommend getting Twitter Blue as well. All right. And so when you have all your profile, it should all come together looking like this. It should look fresh. It should look clean. And you should have something just like this that looks nice and that people would want to buy from. Like, look at your profile right now and say, would somebody actually come to this profile if it was me? Would I go to this profile and say, hey, I want to buy from them, or I want something from them, or they have a quality service? Because if not, you're doing something wrong. So you really need to have something like this. Looks clean, looks professional, and you want people to have this perception of you early, right from the start, right when you start your Twitter. So creating Twitter content comes from a lot of different places, and I'll talk a little bit about my workflow process in just a second, but all of my stream of consciousness basically becomes my tweet. So anything that I'm thinking, I write it down in a notes in my Apple Notes, and then I post it out on Twitter when I schedule it out at the end of the week. So Twitter is great because if a post flops, it doesn't cost you anything, right? Like on Instagram, one piece of content, I know people who are paying $100 or $200 for one piece of short form content. Obviously, it's very highly edited, but if that piece of content flops, it costs them a lot because if they don't make a return off of that post, they don't get paid. So very, very important if you're making tweets, like make a lot of quantity and learn how to do it through trial and error. And again, you can learn from mistakes and they don't have to be your own mistakes. But if you can learn, if you can actually gain that skill, the easiest way to do so is by posting. So post a lot, make sure you get a lot of quantity out there because you'll learn what works and what doesn't. And then you'll learn what quality truly is. We want to make this post easy to read and hard to skip. That's one thing that most people miss is just filling the screen. Psychologically, if you're scrolling on Twitter and there's a post that takes up the entire screen, they're a lot more likely to stop on it and read that post. So that's why I always recommend having a visual aid, some sort of image or something like that. Helps out in a lot of cases, not always, but sometimes it will help you out, and it will help that post perform better in the algorithm as well. And another thing that you can be doing to get more quantity out is actually batching your content. I like to batch my content. You typically write like 8 to 10 times per week for real good tweets, and then I just throw stuff up there as well. I typically batch my stuff using Tweet Hunter, which I'll talk about in a minute, at the beginning of the week. So typically on Sunday, I block off a whole afternoon, go through, write out all my tweets for the week, and then post them out. So the goal for your tweets are to focus on making other people money, right? If you want your tweets to go viral, you really just need to reverse engineer the algorithm. Think about, why would your Twitter post go viral? What would the algorithm want? At the end of the day, you don't have any leverage with the algorithm. The algorithm has leverage on you. So you have to please the algorithm. The algorithm isn't just going to please you. The algorithm has all the power, so you need to please it. And in order to do that, you have to think, what does the algorithm want? They want more high quality posts so that they can show more ads and make more money. So if you continue to make high quality posts, your posts will continue to go viral and Twitter will continue to make more money, therefore promoting your posts more. If you reverse engineer this process, you can understand exactly what Twitter wants, which is high quality, high engaging posts. So you do have an incentive to make really good content on Twitter because they're going to push your content more. They're going to give you more virality, more authority, so you can sell more long term. Now, let's talk real quick how to get followers. I really like the platform Tweet Hunter. I've used Hype Fury and some of those other ones in the past. Tweet Hunter is just way better from my opinion. I'm going to show you how to use it, but the 3 things that I typically use Tweet Hunter for is just speeding up my workflow process and using some of that AI. The queue, so just being able to schedule stuff out and having stuff ready in my queue, and then my engagement process as well. So that's kind of what I use for Tweet Hunter. And if you want that, I'll put it in the description below as well, and it'll also be in this Gamma doc where you can find that. But again, you can see I use Tweet Hunter. I like it. I use it a lot. And so yeah, that's how I create my content. Okay, so inside of Tweet Hunter, this is kind of what it looks like. Obviously, you're going to have a few things. This is the queue here. So you can see I have all my posts that are scheduled out. So for instance, this is one that I wrote. I can post it right in here and I can just send it to the queue and it'll automatically schedule it and space everything out. So as you can see, I have my spaces here to post things. In addition, one thing I also like to do is the AI tweets. I don't use the AI tweets, but you can write AI tweets pretty easily through here. Never write them specifically with AI because it's just corny. Like, we don't want low performing tweets. We don't want tweets that look like they're written by an AI because high quality people don't like AI. So here is kind of what the AI model will spit out for you. As you can see, a lot of these tweets start with like an incomplete sentence in the front, like this one: passion fuels the grind, but purpose ignites the legacy. You want to kind of edit these out a little bit. So if I'm going to do something like this, I might take out the front: passion fuels the grind, purpose the legacy. Built not for just for today, craft for tomorrow. So again, as you can see, I'm leaving that spacing just like I taught you, and leave that spacing to make it easier to read. And then in addition, I'll probably throw a photo or something on here. Obviously, this is not one that I would necessarily post, but if you were going to write out a tweet, this is kind of how I would do it. It's just using this to start and then going through and actually building out a full tweet from there that actually fits your brand image. So that's kind of how I use Tweet Hunter. A lot of good stuff in here. Another thing that I use it for is actually engaging with people. So as you can see, we can engage with people based on the people, the keywords, and the mentions. So I can go here to keywords and I can search for people based on certain keywords that I have. So as you can see here, I have all these different people that I can engage with based on a keyword that I've put into it. So I can go in here, find different people and engage with them. The better way to do this that I like to do is inside the Twitter platform itself. So I go to Twitter lists. As you can see here, go to my Dream 100 list, and then I basically have a list of around 100 people that either are in my niche or have the same target market as me, and I just engage with their posts so that my posts can be seen by their audience and I can actually grow. This is the fastest way to grow on Twitter, is by using lists, having a Dream 100 list of people that you consistently engage with every time they post. Okay, so the first step before we do any of this, we need to figure out what our niche is. This framework is called the Niche Prism. It's what I've built for finding a niche. There's 4 things that I typically look at in a niche versus just saying I want to target email marketers, I want to target content agencies. This is typically what I look for. I look for persona, passions, preferences, and principles. Those are the 4 things that I look for. So persona is going to be like, who is your market? Like, who are these people? Passions is going to be like, what excites them, what motivates them, what pushes them forward. Their preferences, like their choices and patterns. And then their principles, like their beliefs, their morals, their ethics. These are the things that I look for when I build out a niche. And I build out a niche guide versus just having a niche of like email copywriters. I have a full page that I look at for my niche, so I know exactly who I have. Some people call this an ICP as well. That's one way that you can do it. I recommend you do that as well, but this is kind of how I do niche. So next up, I position everything. So positioning comes down to 5 questions. Again, who are your people? What do they need? Who are you? What do you deliver? Why are you special, different than one? One of my older mentors, a copywriter that we had, really talked about this and really taught this to me and ingrained it in my mind. And now I use positioning for everything that I do. So if you want to learn more about the exact questions that you should be asking, you can come in here into this document. Again, it's going to be in the description. You can expand these and look at these things, but this is kind of what a positioning statement looks like for a sample. You should be able to answer all 5 of these questions in one sentence. So for instance, for ambitious individuals, driven entrepreneurs, and those who refuse to settle for mediocrity, the Dog Collective is the unique blend of growth strategies and business development that delivers the tools, knowledge, and psychological insights to build a visible, viable, and valuable brand. Because achieving personal excellence and entrepreneurial success is an act of rebellion and requires a comprehensive, holistic approach. So from here, you can see who are my people, what do they need, who are you, what do I deliver, and why am I special, different than one? And if you can't separate yourself from everybody else and answer that last question, you are going to have a very, very hard time actually building a brand or anything significant. So the next thing we want to do is build an offer. So these are kind of the steps that you want to take in building an offer. If you haven't read $100 Million by Alex Hormozi, it's a great way to do it. But essentially, how to build an offer. You want to minimize the effort and sacrifice that it takes a person. You want to deliver the better results. So you got to get better results and you got to get them faster. Time to first value is huge. If you were hypothetically running an agency where you do graphic design, you want to have those graphics done as soon as possible. The quicker that you can do things, the better, and the happier your clients will be. So time is huge, especially when you're working with high caliber clients and A players. The next thing you want to do is reduce the risks. That's having guarantees. That's having things in place with risk reversal, where people don't have to take on nearly as much risk to have you as a client. The next thing that you want to do is make it something that they desire. So if it's not something that they desire, if they don't have a desired outcome that comes from buying your offer, they're not going to buy it. Next thing is you want to make it quantifiable. So you want to have a number. Typically a big number works better for clickbait or titles per se. You want to have some sort of number, some sort of guarantee, and some sort of exact result that you're going to be able to deliver to them. Next up, I want to talk briefly about how to find leads. A lot of people come to me and they're like, how do you find your leads? How do you get a list? I don't buy lists. I don't believe in lists, because the reason that I don't believe in lists is because if everybody else is doing it, they've probably already targeted that list and that list is probably drained. So what I don't do is buy a list. I go in and actually find my people manually. Yes, it's lower leverage, but the only thing that's low leverage is not making money. And so if you're not actually closing clients, you should actually be doing this, going in and finding your people manually. After you have a team, yeah, maybe you can buy a list, but now it's not the move, especially when you're first starting out. So how to find people. The first thing that you want to do is command your home feed on your target market, right? Basically what that means is the people in your home feed and your recommended should be people that you are actually interested in. They should be people from your target market. You should be engaging with those people every single day. If you can't have your home feed look like your target market, you're not going to be able to get those people on calls. Second of all, you need to be able to search in the search bar, search for your niche. For example, if you're targeting email copywriters, you can search that in the Twitter search bar. And then also you can get inbound leads as well. Like you can get people inbound. Another huge strategy that a lot of people don't talk about, and that the people who skip this video and just read this document won't even hear about, is just using the recommended, right? If you command your home feed and you engage with those people the right way, you can hit that little recommended button and it'll show you all the people that it recommends you to go after and it recommends that you follow. And that is huge, right? If you can look at those people and it recommends people to you, you're going to have a higher likelihood of closing them. And yeah, just connect with people. One other thing that I didn't mention is just reaching out to people that have already reached out to you or you've already talked to. We do a lot of bait and switch, believe it or not. Like a lot of people will DM us and be like, hey, I'm an editor. You want me to edit your videos? And we're like, hey, your systems aren't great and we can kind of help you maximize your systems or help you do that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that we do for finding people, as well as getting people inbound who are, trying to pitch us on something and bait and switching them. It's not always going to be the move, especially if you're not doing B2B, but in this case, that will be kind of a way that I go about it. Now, building a DM flow. So I use my FIND frameworks. As you can see, FIND, it stands for find. Foster context and familiarity. That's going to be the first step. The second step is going to be identifying the inefficiencies. The third step is going to be showing your process, showing them where they're at right now and how they can get to their desired outcome. We want to do this almost like Google Maps is the analogy that I typically give, right? Like in order to go somewhere on Google Maps, it has to know your current location. If it doesn't know where you're currently at, you're not going to be able to get to a new location. So the new location is their desired outcome. And then there's multiple different paths to get there. There's the path that they're currently taking, which is slow. And then there's the path that you offer, which parallel leaps them over the competition in order to make them better at what they do. So those are kind of the two ways that you can kind of do things, and you can take different solutions, but you have to narrate why your solution is the best solution for them. The next thing that you want to do is to determine their availability. So the D in find is determine availability. You want to basically book them for a call, give them a calendar sequence, and that kind of thing. The most important part of this is the hook. A lot of people will send crappy openers, and that's why their DMs fail. If you just say, hey, how's everything going with business? It's terrible, right? It's terrible. You're never going to get anybody like that. You want to send messages with a question, right? The framework that we use is just compliment question, right? Say, hey, been loving your page. I see that you're killing it with XYZ, especially if you can add some sort of personalization. Like if you saw that they were in Italy, hey, I hope you're having a great time in Italy. I just want to say, I hope you're having the best day of your life. And then the next thing would be the question that gets them to respond. You want them to feel obligated to respond. The other thing is try to keep this as short as possible. If you can keep it down to 1 to 2 sentences, that's great. And even if you don't write in full complete sentence, that's better than nothing. So that's kind of the framework that I go for the hook. Compliment, then question. So, should you do quality or should you do quantity? There's two kind of ways that people go about this. I recommend you do both, but you will see as you do more quantity, the quality has diminishing returns. So you're not going to be able to do 500 super personalized DMs every single day, most likely, unless you're spending, 6 to 8 hours a day on that. So you kind of do have to choose, and what your goal is to get to this center point, this central location of a mix between quality and quantity, right? When these two lines cross, that's when you should really be going all in. So Twitter limits you to 500 accounts reached out to per day, which is amazing. That's better than any other platform that I've seen. Instagram, for instance, is about 100, 150, and Twitter, we can send up to 500. So that instantly 5x's our capacity. So especially if you are looking for your first client, you should be sending as many as possible and as high quality DM as possible as well. Now, the reason I'm not giving you a full script is because scripts suck. If I were to give you a full script, you would go out, use that script, copy, paste it, and then your DMs would also suck. So if I were to give you a script, you would probably suck. Your DMs would look like everyone else's. You would never close any clients, and that's why I'm not giving you a script. The more creative you can become with your opener, the better. And yeah, that's kind of the goal with everything. It's just to become the best. The next thing that I kind of want to touch on is follow-ups, right? And again, we don't use scripts for follow-ups. We use a framework, and our framework kind of comes down to 3 different things. The first thing is you want to ask them a question, right? When you follow up with somebody and they didn't respond to you, you're going to want to ask them a question. You're going to want to follow up. Now, these don't matter nearly as much as you would think, but we do book in a lot of calls when we follow up with people. There's a few different ways that you can kind of do this. You can say, hey, am I getting ghosted? That's what everybody does, and that's why a lot of times that stuff doesn't work. But one thing that I like to use is, hey, is scaling still a priority for you? Or, hey, did my message get to you? Using some sort of humor is great. Like, one thing that you can steal from us, and, obviously don't go copy paste this, or else you will look like everybody else and it will get saturated and then you'll ruin the secrets. We're trying to keep this small so that it doesn't get saturated, but something like, figured you've been typing for the last 5 days, and then, throw an emoji on there, right? Like, if someone reaches out to you and you're like, hey, figured you've been typing for the last 5 days while we've been waiting on you to respond, they're gonna, look at that and they're gonna be like, haha, that's funny. A lot of people send memes. I don't really respond to memes. I don't know. They can work. They do work well. If you do have a meme that's like, hey, me just sitting here waiting for you or something like that, at the end of the day, you just want to get them to respond to you. You want to do anything you can to get them to respond to you, because someone who's unresponsive is going to be non-buyer, right? If you can get them to respond, you can at least maybe book them on a call. You have a 0% chance of booking someone on a call if they're not responding to you and if they're not interested. So you have to raise their level of interest by using humor, using energy. You'll see throughout this video, I've been talking heavy. I've been delivering my energy. I've been delivering a message to you that I'm passionate about. So if you can show the same thing through DMs, you're going to be a killer when it comes to DMs. So I did a full video on organic engagement amplification retargeting. It's my retargeting strategy, and I talked about it very, very in depth in another video, and I'll leave that linked in the description as well. But what I recommend you do is attack the lowest hanging fruit first, right? Like, if you do have an audience, it's going to be way easier to book in the initial call if you're retargeting the people who are already engaged with you. And even if you don't have an audience, when someone likes a post, you should reach out to them and say, hey, saw you like the post, what inspired the like, or what inspired the ad, or what connected with you, right? You need to be reaching out to these people because these are going to be your warmest prospects and the easiest people to book on a call. So again, basically the framework here, most funnels are people just make content and get views and then wait for the leads to come to them. What you should be doing instead is making content, publishing and targeting the specific market, right? Like, it needs to have that positioning built into the content. Then we want to do a CTA where we make people engage with it. Then we want to nurture the leads, right? So if we nurture the leads, then they'll continue to watch the content. They'll continue to flow through this process until eventually we can send DMs to them, to everybody that engages, and then we can book calls, right? And so the end goal is to book calls and make money. You can't do that if people aren't nurtured. So you have to warm them up and you have to build that trust. And the easiest way to do that is through making great content and nurturing your leads through there. Again, I have this other whole video on that where you can really dive in depth into that, but that's my retargeting strategy. All right, so if you ain't tracking, you slacking. I see y'all out there making decisions off of no data, and if you don't have data, you can't make good decisions. So in order to be able to make good decisions on whether your Twitter outreach is working or not, you need to have a CRM. You need to be tracking data. Here's an example of what the CRM might look like. This was actually for a whole nother project, but as you can see, we have data wheels here. We have different pieces of data that we're running. We're looking at Loom view rate. This was when we were sending Loom emails. We're looking at a view rate of DMs. We're looking at the amount of people that's seen it. We're looking at our booking rate, the amount of people that we reached out to that we booked in. We're looking at our no-show rate. We're looking at all this different stuff. And if you have Go High Level, use it. Because if you're not using it and you're not tracking this data, you're not ever going to be able to make good decisions because you're not going to have the data to back those decisions up. So you want to be confident about the decisions you're making. So it's very, very important that you tracking and that you ain't slacking, because I see y'all out there not tracking nothing. So that's one big thing that I've learned from all the huge people that I've talked to. Like I was talking to Brandon Carter and he was like, yo, like one thing that I do on a daily basis every single day is I track my macros. I track everything that I eat. And so one of those things is like all these high level people, what they do is they track everything. They track their calendar, they track their meals, they track everything. And so if you're not tracking, you can't make good decisions and you're not going to be able to progress in your business because you're not tracking. So again, if you ain't tracking, you slacking. Here's the secret that all of you have been waiting for, getting a setter and not having to do this yourself. Setters are an amazing tool that you should be using. We have a team that we have that does all of this process of sending the DMs and sending those outbound. A lot of y'all probably clicked off the video when we were talking about 500 outbound. And y'all are like, oh, I can't send 500 outbound. I'm too lazy to do that.
Which makes you a mega dork.
Well, that's why you're never going to make it. And the trick is to hire someone to do that for you so that you can get the exact number of DMs you want sent out without having to do it yourself, without having to spend your own time. Because at the end of the day, setting is like almost like a slave job. It's not a super high leverage job for the founder, right? So if you're just starting out, maybe, yeah, you should probably do your own setting. If you are already established, already doing a little bit per month, you should have a setter be booking in appointments for you. You can find setters on a commission basis. And if you want me to walk through the exact KPIs and everything like that, send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment here with the word setter and I'll know to make that video and know that's interesting to y'all. But right now, my main things are like, when you have a setter, just don't treat them like an employee. They're not an employee. They're on your level. Don't try to have an ego and be better than them. That's what kills you in business. You want to treat them as a team member, as someone who's ready to go to war with you. And you want them to be on your own level, right? Like you should be friendly with them. Like we're texting jokes back and forth. The other big thing is just daily communication, right? You need to have daily communication. We text our setters all day, like pretty much like every day we spend, a good bit of time texting our setters back and forth, analyzing their conversations, pushing them to be better. And the only way that you're going to book 200 to 300 appointments a month is by having high standards. If your standard is set at 20 to 30, you're not going to book more than 20 to 30. People don't rise to their expectations. They fall to their standards. So wherever your standards are set is where you really need to be pushing your standards up. So if you can have a higher standard, you're going to be able to book more appointments. That's kind of the key thing. If you don't take away anything else from this video, have high standards and push your setters to be the best of the best. Now, you want to push them, you want to be aggressive with them, but you also don't want to be a dick. Like you want to really keep them accountable for what they're doing, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to hold them to the standard that they need to be held to, right? Like you have to hold them to a standard, and if you don't, they're not going to ever come back to you and they're not going to continue to want to work for you. You want to keep them on their toes, and by doing that, we offer incentives, right? So like we start them out at 5%, and that's kind of their base. And as they book more appointments, like they're going to make more money, right? Like they're going to go up 10, 15% based on the amount of appointments that they book. So, and it's also, you want to pay them based on qualified appointments. A lot of people have setters and they're like, hey, I'm paying my setter on retainer. No, terrible way to do this, because if they're just getting paid on retainer, they don't have any incentive to do well. Unless you have a KPI in place, a setter is nothing. So you need to have KPIs in place, and you need to be pushing your setters to do better, because if you don't, they are not going to be able to excel, and they're not going to be able to be successful. If you don't want to see your team successful, they won't be successful. Success at the end of the day is the pursuit of their own true potential So if you want them to be successful, you have to let them pursue their own growth and let them pursue their own potential. And that's how you really let setters exceed. And that's how you really book in as many appointments as possible. So you need to be on their butt, but you also need to be treating them with respect and treating them as a person, not as an employee. So if this video is helpful, just leave me a comment. Let me know if you want to see that video on the setters. I'd be happy to help you out with that too. Anything you need, let me know. I got your back for life. So keep killing it, keep crushing it, and I'll see you later.